Hey Top Gang, last time we talked about how not to rush things when starting to work on your side hustle, when planning your side hustle, and so on. If you missed that episode, check out the link is in the description. All the links will be in the description, so make sure to check it out after this episode. And today we've got a special guest here, someone I know personally. It's Vitalii Duke, an early-stage investor and advisor in the sphere of AI, data science, and machine learning. I had the pleasure of working with Vitalii in one of my previous companies, and Vitalii recently released a hilarious article on how to make your startup fail. So I'll drop the link in the description. Make sure to follow him on Medium. His articles are hilarious. So let's go straight into our interview. Hi Vitalii, thank you for making it today. I appreciate you coming here.
Hi Olga, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me.
So Vitalii, could you share please a little bit about your background? Because I haven't introduced you properly. So could you share a little bit about your background and how come you came up with the startup idea at all?
Yeah, so I've been working in IT for I think about 8 years now, and past 6 years almost I've been doing data science, machine learning stuff primarily. For the past 4 years I live and work in Dubai, and actually when it comes to the startup, it wasn't me who came up with the idea of the startup. Actually was a bunch of my colleagues that shared this idea with me, and they asked if I want to join and start working on this particular startup, which was called Probe Fashion.
And could you tell a little bit more about the product itself? So what was this product about, and who was it aimed at, and like who was the target audience for this product? What was it about? Yeah.
Sure. So the product, it was a B2C product initially that we were building. We started early 2018, and it was a platform, a fashion platform that allowed users to take a snap of their clothes or upload some screenshots and find the same or similar clothes online in the nearby stores or on the e-commerce platforms and just get it delivered to their home. So it was heavily focused on like computer vision and machine learning. So the core technology behind this that we were developing was a bunch of computer vision algorithms able to recognize type of clothes you want to find and perform a similarity search in our database of all the products that we had, basically.
Mm-hmm. And as I understand, something has gone wrong. And so what could you describe, like what happened, and at what stage did you feel that things are starting to fall apart? And have you tried to conquer the market? Have you brought the product to the market at all? So at what stage like things began to dissolve?
Yeah, that's the reason why I actually referring to the startup in the past tense, because unfortunately, after a year or a bit more than a year, things didn't go well, and we decided to shut down. And there were like many reasons. Now, when I'm reflecting on it, there were many reasons that brought us to this stage. But of course, like we brought it to the market. We've been we failed at the very early stage when it comes to the startup stages, but it took us a very long time. So we actually worked on it, as I said, for more than a year, and then we realized that okay, it's not gonna go well. So we've been bootstrapping with our own funds, so we didn't raise any funds. We've been trying to raise funds, talking to a lot of VCs, but that was one of the reasons why we decided to shut it down, because we didn't raise any funds, and we thought, okay, probably it's not gonna work. But the product itself was working, it was operational, we had an app, we had some small user base, which was like hundreds of users, it was working fine. Like the main core features that we were trying to develop, they were working perfectly. At some stage we realized that probably the stuff that we were building, it's not what the market wants. It's not what our users want. We had this idea, we thought it's going to work, but it took us a long time to realize that this product doesn't have a market fit at all.
And how did you realize that? Like, so you have spent a year on the development part itself, right? So no marketing, this business.
Yeah, we did some marketing. We ran some marketing campaigns at the very last stage, and the product development took a while because as well we were a bunch of tech guys trying to build a startup, and for all of us it was like a first startup that we were trying to build. We never had any experience in building startups before, and it happens that if you're like a tech guy, you're super focused on building the technology and not thinking about other business aspects of a startup. So that's why I think first 6 months we spent like heads down working on building perfect app, perfect technology, algorithms, and things like that. And then we realized, after talking to first like advisors and first VCs, we realized that there's the other stuff that we need to take care of. Like we need to figure out how do we acquire our customers, what's the cost per acquisition, and what's our strategy to go to the market, and is there any demand for this type of product as well? Because we did some interviews with our initial customers, got some feedback, and then we straight away started to build this stuff. But I think it requires a bit more research before you actually do heavy development.
But have you done, the research after? So why have you stopped? It was like out of the blue decision, or have you done some sort of research and understood that that's not something that the market wants?
Yeah, so we after I guess the tipping point was after like 6 months of working on this, and at that point we went back to do some customer interviews, and at this point as well we realized that some users say, "Oh, that's a nice app, but I would play around with it, but it's not that I'm going to use it every day." Then we realized that there's some issue with privacy as well, because it's nice when you can take a photo of some clothes and then find them online. But first we thought people would do this like on the street or something, they see some nice clothes, but due to the privacy concerns, it's not very like people will not go on the street and take pictures of other people just to find this clothes. So it doesn't work like that.
I would.
Yeah. It depends on the culture as well in the country. So we realized, okay, we can do same thing with screenshots. But I think more and more we're trying to talk to our customers. More and more we realize that people need something else. So we tried to pivot as well. And then the other point was that when we realized how expensive it is to attract customers, the cost per acquisition, especially in the markets where we were trying to launch, was very high. So competing with other fashion e-commerce platforms was extremely expensive. And we had to develop some strategy which will allow us to acquire customers for cheap. And we were trying, but we were I think never able to figure this out, like what's the viral effect that we can provide to our users, that they will come back to the app every day. We've been thinking about various ideas. We've been thinking about some personal like fashion assistants that can help you to match clothes and combine them in the perfect way. But then I think developing this kind of technology would again take us maybe 6 more months. So we thought, okay, it's not very viable to start it again from scratch. Then we thought about switching to some other ideas, like similar to Stitch Fix, where we can combine a box of clothes and send it to you, and then you try them out and send back stuff that you don't like and keep the stuff that you like, for example. But then we realized that this is very different idea from what we were building initially. This is very like operationally heavy business, which will require some offline operations, and we realized we're not ready to do that. So there were like several things that we were trying to test, but I think as well, what is important in startups, that you fail fast and you pivot fast. For us, we were super exhausted at that point when we started pivoting. So that's why I think it ended up as is. And obviously there were several other reasons that.
So about the reasons, like I understand that you have like sort of learned your lesson the hard way. So what do you think were the real reasons behind, you dropping your idea? And are you willing to share with us?
As I said, so I think the very important reason was something that I already mentioned, is that we jumped straight into development from like day one. We didn't do our due diligence before, so we didn't test the idea properly. And there are other ways you can test the idea without any development. You can spend, I would say like bare minimum effort to actually validate if that's gonna work or not. I think you can do it purely with like PowerPoint presentations, some design sketches presented to your potential customers, get as much feedback as you can. Maybe even talk to some of the investors beforehand with this kind of stuff, and ask what they think, what are the main questions they would ask you if you go and pitch that product to them. And then only if you see that it's going to work and there's a potential, then you can jump into building the MVP. But then again, if you're just starting, don't focus on like every single detail. Don't try to make it perfect at the first stage, because you can end up wasting a lot of time. And then maybe down the line, you will need to pivot anyway. So things might change. You might you might build the perfect design of your first MVP, but then after 2 months, you will scrap it completely and start over with something else. And that will hurt, because you'll be like, oh, wow, we've spent so much time designing this and we'll need to throw it away. Yeah. So that was like, I would say the main reason that it took us a long time to realize that. And then on the other hand, the problem was probably the team setup, that, as I said, all technical co-founders, no previous experience in like business setting. So there was no one who would direct us in terms of like business and
strategy, right? So
strategy, customer acquisition, someone who had even experience in like e-commerce or like fashion industry. Because I remember when we were talking to one of the investors and we finished our pitch, and then the feedback was like, well, guys, the app looks nice, everything works perfect. We never saw the startup that had this perfect app at this stage, where you didn't raise any funds yet, but you already have a perfectly working product. But then the question was like, how can we trust you, or how can we invest in you? Because you are all like tech guys. There's no one from the industry. How do we trust you that this idea will work? So probably, now that I'm thinking about this, it would be better if we had several business guys from the industry on our board, or maybe as one of the co-founders, and not very perfect product, something that works, that would be more successful. Then we can raise funds, could have raised funds and proceed further. Because having someone who's credible in the someone who already built some business before is way more important than having like a perfect product.
And have you considered bringing someone with similar skill set to the board? I mean, at the stage when you decided, okay, we have a product. Well, have you considered the opportunity of bringing someone, and maybe not even someone with an experience on bringing successful startups, but maybe some product marketer? I mean, that would be a perfect fit for you if you were all techies.
Yeah, so we had several attempts. I think after this pitch to one of the investors, we started considering it more and more. But as well, there was the other problem that we had. So when you start your company and you own, you divided shares, you own the portion of this company, then what happens sometimes that you are very reluctant to give up equity to some other, advisors, additional co-founders, or maybe just as you said, like people who are experienced in marketing who can help you for free, but they would want maybe some share of the company. We were super reluctant, and we had many discussions about this, and we were like,
how many co-founders did you have?
So we had four co-founders, which is as well quite a lot for the startup. I would say this is not perfect setup, but then because as well you will have this issues where you want to reach some consensus, and with 4 people it's way harder than, let's say, with 2 people to reach consensus.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had discussions about bringing someone on board, and many times we ended up with the decision, like maybe we shouldn't at this stage, maybe we can deal with this on our own. And that was the problem, because if you own 100% of a company that is worth 0, you still have 0, right?
Right.
So you give up some equity, doesn't matter if you give like even 10% of your equity to someone who can actually take you forward. That's better than keeping everything to yourself, and then at some stage you will just discontinue the startup, as we did, for example, and we're left with like nothing. And then at some point as well, we considered bringing someone as the CEO. So we realized that with our existing skills, we cannot probably take it forward. So we've been considering several candidates, several people here in the region that are experienced in this kind of domain. But then I think it was too late already, because that was like almost a few months before we decided to stop everything. And then some of those guys, they were like interested, but then they had some other engagements, and I think that just accelerated the shutdown of the startup, I would say.
So, like, has this experience discouraged you from further endeavors, or do you have some other plans lined up already?
So obviously, you lose motivation if you fail. I think it depends on the person. Some people can, they will try once and they will say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna try at all because startups is not my thing." For me, I guess, I lose motivation for a short period of time, but then at some point you recover, and then it's super exciting. Like startups, I think something that is very exciting, and for the short period of time it will discourage me, but then in the future I think that's where I'll be at some point. So I'll still be doing some startups. For now, I'm trying to help with the advice and advising some other startups, just sharing my experience and things like that. But when something sparks, I might start working on something again.
And do you have like any sort of, let's say, regrets on having lost, a year of, efforts and time into developing your product. So do you have any regrets on the time lost?
Yeah, I think there is a regret, because I think time is the most valuable resource that you have. It's not like if you lose money, you can deal with that. You can earn money again, and the time, it's something that you will never get back. So that's why now I'm thinking, if I'm gonna start something, I'll try to fail fast or to pivot fast. If something doesn't work, then it doesn't work. You shouldn't waste enough effort, and you need to have the skill to identify if it's gonna work or not, because you shouldn't give up as well. Like if there is something that you're really passionate about and something that you think has a potential to work, then you shouldn't just try for like a month and then just give up. So you need to keep that balance between failing fast but not giving up. So yeah.
But then the valuable experience you got along the way, I mean,
yeah,
of course it's better to learn on someone else's mistakes, but then rarely anyone does. So maybe it's worth learning on your own mistakes than not learning at all.
Yeah, that's true. I think still there are better ways of learning, or at least having an idea how you can avoid some of the common mistakes, so you don't repeat all of them in your first startup experience. But yeah, like learning on your own, I think it will stay with you forever, I guess, and most probably you're not gonna repeat that again.
Yeah. Nor forget. Yeah. Yeah. So, and by the way, so now that you, I presume, learned some lessons from doing your thing, you can share maybe some extra advice with the young entrepreneurs and those who want to start out or want to found their startups or just consider starting. So do you have any advice for young entrepreneurs? You're not that old yourself. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think what is important, obviously there are different advice that you can give to people at different stages in their startup life. I guess what is important is to realize that every startup needs to find its product market fit, and you need to do it as soon as possible. So like keep that in mind before you start, and do it fast. Also, there is a set of lectures by Y Combinator Startup School that I would advise everyone to go ahead and watch if you planning on starting some startups. They have like tons of valuable insights that you can just learn by watching them. And I regret that I didn't watch that before. We started working on the startup. I watched that after, and I was like, oh yeah, I now I know this. And as well, there is a nice book that I finished reading recently, which is called Straight Talk for Startups by Randy Komisar. I think it has like almost 100 different insights and suggests to entrepreneurs, which goes all the way from like how do you start building your team, how do you hire people, how do you test your ideas, all the way up to like managing boards of directors of your company when you're at the later stage of your development. So yeah.
Okay.
And one more advice that I would suggest people considering when you start, as well, take care of your legal setup and the way you kind of form your legal entity. So you need to take care of things like shareholders agreement, which is very important, IP assignments, NDAs, and all of this kind of things, which will help you down the line, especially if things go south and something doesn't work, because you might not need it if everything is perfect, but if something goes not well, then you need to have some legal framework that you can operate in. And more importantly, when you have several shareholders that they're starting this endeavor, it's good to clarify responsibilities, who's going to do what, especially when you decide on the equity splits as well, because what can happen is that you can say, oh, we're going to do this, we can have equal splits, and that's it. But then you don't clarify responsibilities, and that leads to certain issues down the line where people might be concerned why I'm doing more and this guy is doing less. And I think it's very important to clarify responsibilities, even though in startups, like if you're the co-founder, you should be able to take care of different things, not just your specific topic that you're an expert in, but I think having some boundaries as well is important. So one person is not overloaded and the other one is sort of like resting.
Yeah, that's extremely important. Yes, we did a similar arrangement, a legal arrangement between our co-founders when we tried to launch our product, eHealth product. And yes, this is extremely important because at some stage we realized that we had 3 co-founders, and one of the co-founders did not bring the same amount of effort that we did with my other co-founder, and we thought like, okay, so how come that we all have equal shares when someone is underperforming or not working at all on the product, and we two are striving to get it working? So yes, that's extremely important. It's very good that you mentioned this one. And yes, it's very important that not only shares, but all the roles and responsibilities that everyone should bring to the table. For example, one is responsible for the development part, for all the tech part. Another is responsible for the marketing, sales, business development, and content strategy, talking to influencers and so on and so forth. Another is responsible for getting the financial support, for example, because one of the co-founders might not, take part in the development of the product itself at all, or not being interested, or he can just bring his money to the table and say, okay, so I'm giving the money, okay, but I want my share. So like acting like a sort of an angel investor here. But yes, it's extremely important to write down and to understand who brings what, whose effort is bringing.
Yeah, and I think like everyone should be conscious that things might change as well, because if you start, you have a lot of you have a lot of energy, and then you may just burn out down the line at some point. And some people burn out like after 6 months of working on this. Some people burn out like after a year or so, and then that's why I think legal setup is important in this case, because you need to have some way to say, okay, if you don't want to continue anymore, or you want to contribute less now, how do you reduce your share, or how do we negotiate that you still get something because you already contributed, but then you don't distract the other part of the team, and the company can move forward further without any disruptions. So it's important to have this clarified in the beginning. That's why I would say, like, before I'll start any new venture, I would work on this from day one, and then you can continue like easily without any thoughts on the back of your mind that something might go wrong, and then you might just lose everything because it didn't work out with the other co-founders.
Yeah. Nobody should be a bottleneck in the process, and if you when something is wrong with the people in the team, then you should rearrange things. And actually, the misunderstandings or the issues within the team are one of the major reasons of most startups failing. And yes, this is extremely important, because when you're just starting out, you have a lot of energy, and then it's inevitable that you will have some issues, some maybe serious misunderstandings and even quarrels along the way. And if you don't have any legal arrangements, that's when your startup will fail. And that's actually number one reason, if I'm not mistaken, according to the statistics of startups failing. So that's the
that might be, and I think as well why it's important to have I would say less co-founders, because if you're less people in the founding team, then it's easier to solve issues, and the probability that that you will not get along with your other co-founders if you're just two is less than if you have like four, because you might have issues with two of the other guys, and then the other person should be fine for you, and then there's a high chance that if you bring more co-founders, then
there will be more problems. Yeah,
it's gonna be a mess. So even there are certain investors that I know that they don't. They're not striving to invest in companies that have more than like 2 or 3 co-founders, because they know that there might be problems down the line, and especially if those are not seasoned entrepreneurs. If you already build several startups, maybe you have a different mindset, and things should go fine. But
the less the better in this way. Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah, well, I presume we're coming to a close of our interview. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you learned along the way. And yes, I appreciate you spending your time with me today on this Saturday morning. Thank you for making it, and hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you more, because I have more ideas of how I can use your experience and maybe how you could help other people. By the way, I'll throw the link in the description below, so you will be able to check out Vitalii's Medium. So you will be able to follow him there, and LinkedIn as well. So if you want to, please make sure to check out his profiles. So thank you, Vitalii. Yeah, and I was happy to see you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for inviting me. And yeah, hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Glad to share more stuff.
Yeah, thank you. We thank Vitalii again for taking time to share his experience with us. Hope you liked this episode. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you still haven't, and let me know what your biggest takeaway was. And if you want to learn about more such first-hand experience from entrepreneurs, and specifically IT entrepreneurs, so if you do, please let me know in the comments. And what new episodes and what new topics would you like me to cover next time? I would appreciate your opinion. Thank you for watching till the very end. Have an amazing week, have a great mood, and see you next Wednesday. Bye!